Hi, I'm Lori Jones, President and CEO of Avasec Communications and host of the Integrate and Ignite Marketing Podcast. Join me and my guests, some of the world's top innovators, disruptors, and visionaries, as we explore bold and brave marketing strategies for scaling and growing your brand. From a home basement to offices in Toronto, New York, Fort Collins, and London, from a single local client to a multitude of global customers, from a startup to a $30 million company. That's the story of my guest, Ernie Crawford, President and CEO and founder of Crawford Technologies. Over the last 25 years, this entrepreneur has grown his company into a leading provider of software solutions and services that help enterprises optimize the secure and accessible delivery, storage, and presentation of their customer communications. Be sure to tune in to my conversation with this innovator and learn all about building a successful company from the ground up, the latest development in AI, the growth of cloud adoption, and aligning visions with your entire team, including marketing communications. Welcome to Integrate and Ignite. Welcome to the Integrate and Ignite podcast. I am thrilled to have Ernie Crawford join the show today. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Lori. I'm glad to be here.
I tell you, you are such an inspiration. I'm so excited to just dive into incredible insights and wisdom that you're going to share with us today. Before we get there, tell us a little bit about yourself and this empire, this great company, Crawford Industries, that you have built.
Well, Crawford Technologies was, I guess, going back in time. I came from an entrepreneurial family. My grandfather had several hotels and resorts and that kind of thing, and came a time when went to school to I'm going to learn how to be an entrepreneur, and well, I had already picked that all up, so that didn't work out. But I had a computer science and professor who was just inspirational. It was just kind of off the wall and just idea after idea and bouncing around, and it was really, I thought it was pretty cool. This was something really new, so I went for it, got into that, and got some experience with a number of companies. But I knew, eventually I'm going to start my own company because entrepreneurship was in my background, and that's where I needed to go. So I'm glad it worked out.
Well, I'm certainly glad it worked out too. You provide a lot of jobs to people across the nation. Tell us a little bit more about the size of the business now and really what you've grown it to become.
Yeah, we've just are between 30 and 40 million in revenue, and about 100 and I don't know 160, 170 employees, somewhere around there. Hard to keep up.
Yeah.
And it's our customers are a who's who of business, because we're a business B2B company, and big banks, insurance companies, healthcare, governments. Our customers are telcos, and most of the big ones are customers of ours. So we are in that segment of large organizations that push us pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, I think that enterprise mindset is a good mix with that entrepreneurial mindset, because they're looking for innovation and uniqueness and inspiration and everything that they can provide their customers. And you do that. Explain to us a little bit more about the product and products, because you've got many, that you supply these very important customers.
Sure. We have, I can kind of break it down into three kind of business areas that we're in. And we started in the whole, what was called enterprise output management, and now it's been called various things over the years. Customer communications management, CCM, or ECP is the latest term for it.
It's kind of like marketing terms. They're constantly changing.
Oh yeah. Everybody's got to stay ahead,
Yeah.
So we and that is basically taking documents that are being sent to customers and being able to distribute them any way that they that the customer really wants. That's our our why, our reason,
Mm.
our raison d'etre is to make it easy for businesses and agencies to communicate with the people that they do business with in the best way for those individuals, not for the company. And we started shortly after the internet was out, and one of our first partners was in what they called electronic bill payment, or presentment and payment.
Hmm.
So taking those print files that would normally be printed and mailed to you, and being able to put the documents online, so you could go online, take a look at your bill, and then pay it however you wanted to pay it.
I just did that with Comcast this morning.
Sure.
Yeah, it's created a lot of paperless, less friction when it comes to that sort of stuff and technology alignment. So now I fully get it, Ernie. You've made my life a lot easier, which is what those enterprise customers want.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And we started this back in, I guess it was 95. I started the company, and 96 was our first contract in that area. So we've been
Mm.
doing that for a long time. And
Yeah,
we have, you know, um, most of the big billers and that are using our software. So somewhere behind the scenes, or when you click on that statement to look at it, it might be our software that's retrieving it from a repository someplace, converting it
right.
to PDF and putting it in front of you. Um, and so that's one of our core areas. The other one is, well, the kind of tangential to that is archiving documents, so that they can keep them around, so you can look at them online for as long as needed be, right? And banking now, that tends to be about 7 years, but in insurance it could be the life of the policy. So
Hmm.
if it's a life policy and you live to be 100, which I hope you do,
I hope so too.
that policy might be out there for a long time, right?
Right.
So
Well,
we
that's great. One of the things that I think is so interesting about you, so audience, I always have a pre-show discussion with our guests, and I just want to get to know them a little bit, and understand a little bit more about really what their inspiration is and how they can inspire all of you. And Avocet is a communications firm, as you know, that works with innovators, disruptors, and visionaries. And a lot of times our guests are one of those categories, but Ernie, you're all three. I take a look at the innovation that you're constantly trying to stay ahead of, how these disruptive ideas come to you just out of the blue, and then how you truly do vision the company and move it along. I mean, look at what you've done to grow the business. What is a typical day like for you when I mean, most of us just can't stop thinking, right? You never turn off when you own your own business. And when you've got that mindset, you could be an engineer working for a global company and still have the same mindset. But you are there each and every minute of every day thinking about these sort of things.
Well, yeah, I guess I look at it as being a problem solver,
Right.
and when I see a problem, or somebody, talk to a customer and they tell me about, the problems that they have or the challenges they have, and, my engineer's mind is going to work. Well, how can we solve that? Um, as we built our software in a lot of discrete components that we then tie together. So those components can be mixed and matched to do lots of different things.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's just a matter of, well, we can add a few lines of code here, or um, and make a little change here, and voila, we've got a solution for the customer. So um, we get a lot of ideas come out of that sort of thing. We also have brainstorming sessions with our salespeople, our pre-sales people, our system architects and developers and that sort of thing all the time, to come up with ideas. and
Mhm.
and the scary part is our pipeline. All of the things that we'd like to do is huge. Matter of
That's where the light never turns off, right?
Yeah, yeah. And one of the challenges when you think like that is, how do you get to sleep?
Yeah.
I
Well,
know.
I mean, it's very true. So you're constantly innovating. You're trying to create trend, not just stay ahead of it, but create trends with your solutions. How do you make sure that you're constantly providing reliability at the same time?
Good question, Lori. And that's one of the things that we built in probably, 5 years in, we built a quality assurance system of our own. And it's used primarily as a regression testing facility that lets us know when we make a change to the software that we haven't screwed something else up.
Yeah, which can
And
happen.
can happen, right? So we run every night. Our regression tests run hundreds of thousands of tests every night on every platform that we support. And in the morning, our QA people come in and they can see the results. Did anything that the developers did yesterday screw up something else anywhere? And they can then drill in on it right away, get the developer involved to get a fix for it. So it lets us know at any point in time the status of what our software, where it's at,
Right.
how clean it is, so that if a customer has an urgent problem, and you know when a Fortune 10 company has an urgent problem, you got to be on it right away.
Yeah, right, like that. You mentioned brainstorming sessions a moment ago when it comes to product development, and I'm sure many other processes that you've got deployed in the business. There are a lot of very unique ways that CEOs and really the C-suite like to deploy those sort of sessions. Is there any secret sauce to how you manage a brainstorming session with your team?
Oh, standard brainstorming rules, no editing, just new ideas. You can build on other ideas, but don't criticize somebody else's idea. No sarcasm, that kind of thing. Just you have to enforce those kinds of rules because
Right.
people will very easily get off the rails and start editing, instead of just brainstorming ideas. And then afterwards, you pull it apart and say, well, what really does make sense, and then you
Right.
go into it later.
There's a great author out there. Her name is Carla Johnson, and she wrote the book Rethink Innovation. And she's got a great process for innovation development, ideation. And she's always said that it takes 100 ideas to get to an idea that you can ultimately implement. So I don't think people are doing enough brainstorming these days, or they do it independently of one another. And there's so much glue and stickiness when you're in a room together and you feed off one another instead of building that independently.
Oh, that's absolutely right. Yeah, that's where the magic in brainstorming is getting a
Yeah,
team of people together that are all, you know, they don't have to all be like-minded, but all looking for, a good solution. And if they have varied backgrounds, different perspectives on things, that's when you will get even better ideas.
right. Now, I know that client centricity is something that's very, very important to you. And when you've got these very large, top 10 enterprise clients, maintaining client relationships is absolutely key. How do you go about doing that?
Oh, well, one of the interesting things when I started the company, I had come from a background. I'd worked as a systems programmer for a number of years and had to deal with the support structures that organizations had in place for mainframe software. And the it was frustrating at times because you call in a solution and somebody calls you back and they're level one and all they can do is really take your name and address or phone number or whatever and promise to get someone else to come back to you in a while. And so you sit and you wait and you wait and you wait. And I said, no, that's not the way to do it. We need to have people on the front line dealing directly with the customer that that can answer the questions on that first call rather than have to go through two or three calls to get to the person that can give you an answer. So um, that has helped us immensely. It's our net promoter score is over 70, which
Wow,
is,
that's
you know,
massive.
and that's from being able to, deal with the customer with people that really understand them. Most of our people in frontline have worked in the customer environment, so they know what it's like to be on the other side of the fence, so they understand when a, customer has an issue, they'll ask them, when do you need this fixed?
Mhm.
And, they'll then strive to make sure that our whole organization can line up behind getting that change, that fix, that whatever it might be, an enhancement, an idea, to meet that schedule.
You
And
know,
that,
it's interesting as you're explaining to that it's really a form of personalization, right? And something that you deployed many, many, many years ago at the forefront of developing those customer relationships through personalization. Now we've got AI tools and, things that feed the customer details specifically to what it is that they could use to troubleshoot. How have you managed and weighed the core differences between AI computer driven problem solving versus human interaction when it comes to that?
good question. We've looked at that, um, but our customers are all doing such unique things that when they have an issue or a problem, it is usually something off the wall. It's not something that any.
Those are the fun ones, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and and we're known for that, handling the challenging things, and
right.
um, the run of the mill stuff. I mean, those we have a an online database. The customer go look that up themselves, and they don't even have to call us. So we've been put that in place decades ago so that they could
Yeah.
get the easy ones solved themselves without having to come to us.
Yeah, you really, really are ahead of the curve. There's no doubt about it, and setting trend. It's interesting. Quite often, even with our clientele, we learn. Sometimes it's very quickly, but it can also be several months down the line that the two organizations' visions may not be aligned. And I'm not talking the vision to get product from A to B. I'm just talking the cultural, the operational, the high level vision of where we want to take brands and where the brands want to go, and all of the human interaction that comes with that, how we treat our team members, how important they are to the company. We recently let a client go um, because their visions were not aligned with ours. They were bullies. How do you, and that's a hard thing, that's a hard choice to make. How do you, when you find out something like that, do you find it out before and say, I don't think that this is going to be a good fit? Do you find it out later and say, okay, we need to do some revisioning so that we're more aligned? Or do you find it out later and walk away as we did in this situation?
I guess there's both happen.
Yeah.
We try and drill down in early in our sales cycle with the customer to understand what it is that they need and what they're trying to accomplish, and how they go about things. And if there's not a match, then we'll let them know they should go somewhere else. But um, and once in a while, you get a customer that's a tough one that you really um, they it's not very often though. I mean, we've had a couple
Thank
where the
goodness, right?
yeah, exactly. We've had a couple that said, well, we don't think this will work for us. Our other vendors telling us they can do it, and so they go off and do it, and then they come back a
They always
while
come back.
later. They come back.
They always come back.
Thank
Even the
God.
clients, even those great clients, and I'll say it's great people that, we often just have to walk away from. They typically end up coming back as well. And they learn that lesson through
Oh
another
yeah.
vendor and say, okay, now we've got to start listening to these people. And there's something that we then need to change as well.
Yeah, we had one come back just last week, and it's
Oh,
yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's good feeling when that happens.
You talked about the net promoter score, which I think is fantastic. How do you create that continuation, that constant feedback loop, so you're hearing back from customers on areas that you might want to improve, change, or, really continue doing on a big level?
Well, our frontline people do a lot of that, and when they when they sense that there's something bigger, we'll set up a meeting with the customer. In fact, I'm just in the middle of planning one with one of our larger customers now, where we'll open our kimono and talk about our roadmap, and they'll talk about their roadmap as to what they
That's
need
cool.
and where they're going, and then we'll see where we mesh. In fact, when I started the company, that was one of the things that I did on a regular basis with one of our first customers. I'd get together with the manager there about every 6 months. We get together for lunch,
Hmm.
and he'd tell me what they had coming up in terms of needs and requirements, and I'd kind of tell him where we were going with our technology. And every one of those lunches I left with essentially some things that were going to turn into orders and projects for us with that
Yeah.
customer. And it was pretty consistent. It was great.
And the
Which
thing that I love about that is I am certain that they weren't feeling as though they were being sold to.
Oh,
You were
absolutely.
genuinely interested in a very consultative way of knowing what was, where their roadmap was moving so that you could ultimately meet the need that they were going to have and not be rushed to develop a new module or a brand new product and possibly lose them.
Oh, exactly, exactly. And we were able to, meet them where they wanted to be, able to help them get to where they wanted to get to. And so it was mutually beneficial. It really helped both companies. Um, and they've grown to be one of the biggest companies in their segment.
I love
And
it. Reminds me of that television commercial where a brand they get fired by their largest client, and the CEO is talking to the whole team, and he hands out airplane tickets to everyone and says, "We're now meeting one-on-one with all of our customers because it's that important." And that's it's hard. I think it's so incredibly important to have those one-on-one relationships, those one-on-one conversations. How do you manage that in a virtual world?
you have to have a big travel budget.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
No, and our salespeople just love to get out and meet with customers face to face. And during the pandemic, they were pretty frustrated,
Yeah.
and they're now happy they're out there meeting with customers on a regular basis
Yeah.
and able to to get the feedback from the customers. And
That's great.
it's
How
great.
big is your sales team?
Oh, well, our sales and marketing, about 40 people, I guess. The
Yeah.
real salespeople, it's maybe uh, 15 or something like that.
Yeah, that's great. How do you align and bridge sales and marketing so they're truly walking down the same path to help one another?
Another good question. That's a challenge. One of our managers had a very descriptive way. If the marketing and salespeople saw each other in the parking lot and actually waved at each other with all five fingers, they were doing well.
It's so
uh,
funny.
it's yeah, it's a challenge. Again, it takes a lot of getting together. When we have sales kickoffs and things like that, we'll get everybody together and they'll get the chance to talk about whatever ideas they have or frustrations they have, and
Yeah.
um, it's always when in those meetings when the marketing people are presenting and they start talking about lead generation, that usually gets to be a real hot topic.
Yeah. It's always that quality, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always the quality of the lead, I think, which is something that marketing and sales teams constantly discuss. So you're no different there at all. And it's the strategy backing it up is where we usually have to roll things back a little bit and say, okay, is this the right approach with the right channel, with the right tactics? And I think a lot of times people forget also that it takes 26 times for a individual to interact with a brand before making a buying decision. And that interaction, yes, is sales calls, it's emails, it's seeing them at a trade show, it's someone else talking about them, in the industry. And so patience is king when it comes to, especially in enterprise where the sales process can take a little bit longer.
Oh, absolutely. They're long sales cycles,
Yeah.
we have, I think our record was 6 years,
I
but,
think I
typically.
might have you beat on that, by the way. I
Oh,
landed a
really?
company after 8. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I did.
And it was, yeah,
I had one like that too. It was one of our OEM partners that,
such a great feeling.
yeah, it was. Every year I would see them at a trade show, and
Mhm.
then finally, after about 8 or 9 years, they said, "Yeah, let's do something together." And
Yeah, that's great. It's interesting. There are sales organizations, there's marketing organizations, and that there's sales and marketing organizations. And the most successful programs or companies rather that create faster growth are those where they've got that sales and marketing alignment. They're truly working step in step. But one of the internal rubs between both departments is which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? How do you work with your team to help them understand that it's not about that, it's truly about the alignment going into it?
well, we have a product team, product marketing mainly, that kind of fits between the two,
Mhm.
and some of them have been sellers before, so they know that side of the business, and they've been marketers before, so they bridge the gap pretty well. They can talk to both, and they're also experienced people in the industry. So when we do a lot of thought leadership content and things like that, and so they're able to do that, and they can also talk to directly to the customers, and customers will listen to what they say because they've got the experience, and the salespeople look up to them and will bring them in anytime they can.
Right. How are you generating new leads with marketing at the forefront of that thought leadership deployment?
Well, we do a lot. We are active in a number of industry associations, and so we do a lot of speeches at conferences. There's one coming up in November where I think we're going to be on at least 6 or 8 panels and presentations that we're doing there, and so we do a lot of that kind of work. We do a lot of webinars, either in conjunction with industry associations or on our own, that let us go into deep dives on topics. And we do a lot of articles in the trade magazines and
Mhm.
websites and that kind of thing, and that helps out a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And it's interesting to see a product technologies company that's really at the forefront of that, because it doesn't happen all too often that they're putting cornerstone content, as we refer to it, thought leadership being one of those components. How is your team divvying up and dividing up who does what? Who are the subject matter experts, and what is the best channel for them to deliver that message? You've got a lot of products and a big team.
Well, we do, and the our product team is really the core of that, and they have each of the people there have their areas that they specialize in, and we have we work with a PR firm that brings us opportunities, and we have a way of feeding them in so that people can, when they see something come in, they can say, "Ah, that's mine." They put their pretty picture on it, and they
Right.
run with it. And it's a great team. They're really motivated to do stuff like that, and they really enjoy doing it. So, and our marketing people, when they need some content for something, they do the same thing. Put it to the product team, and the product team members that have time and have the right expertise will jump on it right away. I don't have to be saying you need to do this, you need to do that. They know where their expertise is and what they like to do, and it just works
Right.
out really well.
And I love the example that you just used about filling gaps with external resources like the PR firm that you've got at the table. What are some of the other areas that you've helped augment internal teams with? And it could be technology too, like AI is a big discussion point these days.
Right. Yeah, we've brought in AI technology in our products, and we've launched one just recently that is really getting everybody in the industry's attention because it's taking something that used to take people days, months to do. Now it can just do it in a matter of minutes.
Right.
It's just catching people's attention, going, "Wow, I can get this done right away. I don't have to take and make this a 2-year project anymore." Um, and we've done that through leveraging AI technology out there. We do work with a lot of the the developers outside the company that have libraries, shareware, that kind of thing, open source when possible, and be able to integrate it in as long as it can fit with us and we can support it on the platforms we need to support it on, and license it properly and all that.
That's
And
great.
and we do have some third parties that will license libraries from as well
Yeah,
for certain areas where they fit in again to those
that's
criteria.
great. You've got a lot of balls up in the air. I mean, tons. And just again, you're always thinking the light is always on. You've got 160 people on your team. You're heavily involved in interaction with customers, product development, thought leadership. How do you make it all happen? What advice do you have for our listeners today on what they could do to make it all happen?
Building a strong team, is key to it all, and trying to keep the management structure there so that you don't have to do everything. That
Right.
you're basically just checking in with them to make sure things are going. I look at it as if there's a problem area, I'm there to help them troubleshoot it. Or if it's a startup situation like our accessibility business I started, kind of was a personal interest, and we are now market leader in document accessibility, creating documents that are digital documents that are accessible to people who are blind or have low vision,
Ah,
and meeting the legislation, ADA and Section
mhm.
508 and all the rest of it. But it's if there's a trouble, I jump in, and if it's a startup, something new, then I'll jump in. So
Yeah, that's great.
otherwise, they can manage those areas of the business themselves.
Share the story behind how you came up with the ADA product. I believe that it involved your mother.
My mother, yeah, that's right. As she was getting old, um, she her eyesight started going on her, and she just couldn't read the small print on different statements, and she had not only the normal household things because she was living alone, but she had some investments, and she just couldn't understand the investment statements, and the every time I'd go to visit her, I'd have to help her out, go through those documents. She'd keep a stack for me, so when I'd show up,
Aw, I love that.
I'd go through them for her. And I said, there must be a better way. There must be a way that you can read these. And I called her suppliers, and they had no way. So did some research and found that yeah, you can do large print, and you can make that available to older people. And then part of that is also for people who are totally blind. There's Braille, and then of course on the digital side, there at that point there wasn't any digital solution at that time.
Mhm.
But I said, well, there's got to be. We've been in the the whole bill presentment side of things. We know that's going to be needed, so I could see that coming, and well, let's get into it. So we started up a shop, one in Canada and one in the U.S. Started out with large print and Braille, and a couple other e-text and audio formats to learn the business, and also, of course, obviously to provide solutions for organizations. So we would do the printing and mailing for or different organizations, and learned that business really well and built technology to do it digitally. And now
And voila,
well,
here you are. What percent is of like total revenue is that idea? How, what percent of total revenue has it evolved into?
that's probably about between 25 and 30% of our business now.
Fantastic. That's amazing. That's how, like when you're able to turn your mind off from the day-to-day busyness of running, it's the whole idea of taking a shower. That's where the best ideas come. Mine happens to be driving or on a walk in the evening. When your mind shuts off, the ideas come to you. And that's very similar to the situation with your mom. It was like you needed to get out of the office and look at what out of the office did for 30% of your revenue at this stage.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Which is, that whole, seeing what people are doing really connects it, which is, what our sales teams like to do is if they can go on site and tour a shop or something like that, they can really get ideas about what the customer needs or where they've got problems and things that are not quite working. So
yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. What is next? What's around the corner for the company?
Well, continued growth. We are seeing lots of strength in all the areas that we're doing business in, and we've formed some good partnerships with new partners over the last couple of years that are growing, that are really doing some interesting, exciting things, and working with them to satisfy their customer needs. And AI obviously and cloud are two the biggest areas.
Right.
The cloud has been a slow uptake for our customers because they come from there's so much confidential information, private information, private health information, personal information in their documents that up until a few years ago, those weren't even online. They were offline in a shop someplace where there was no connectivity to the internet or anything. And so they've come a long way now to actually do some of that work in the cloud. And so we're seeing a lot of growth in that area. And of course, AI, as we come up with new AI products to help make things less expensive, easier to implement. And organizations are really, they love that because it's something they want to snap their fingers these days and make it happen, right?
Right.
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, I tell you, Ernie, you are such an inspiration, and I just love how your mind works. It's the true entrepreneurial mindset where you're constantly innovating and disrupting markets, which we haven't talked a lot about today, but you've truly disrupted a lot of markets. And congratulations on your success. I can't wait to see what's around the corner for you. And I deeply appreciate the time that you spent with us today.
Well, thanks a lot, Lori. It's been great talking with you. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you so much for your appearance on the Integrate and Ignite podcast.
This episode is complete. Head over to avocetcommunications.com for more ways to scale and grow your business. And be sure to tune in regularly for insights and motivation with host Lori Jones and her guests on the Integrate and Ignite Marketing Podcast.